Hey, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Relationship Schools podcast. I'm your host, Jason Gaddis. Great to be here. What is up? I am rocking my blue blocking glasses here if you're watching on YouTube, so that I can protect my eyes. It's an interesting new experiment. Yes. Got these from my wife. They're called optics. Anyway, our podcast is all about love and connection, intimacy, sex, relationships, being a team, getting connected in this crazy life. If you're new, welcome. If you're returning, I appreciate your subscription, your listening, how you share this, and how you apply yourself, more importantly, with the action steps and all those episodes that you know you've done. So I appreciate you for that. All right. We reached 4 million downloads recently, and I just want to acknowledge you for listening and sharing with your friends. That's a big deal. Wow, it's a lot. So taking that in. Hopefully you guys got my personal email that went out. I updated you on my reflections for 2020, all this stuff, my wins and losses, the books I'm reading right now, my book recommendations, the yoga I'm doing right now, etc. So if you didn't get that email, you want to subscribe to our list. And you can just go to relationshipschool.com and join. Even better, though, is to go to relationshipschool.com/training, and that'll put you on our list, and you can join the next live training with me, ask me a question. And right now I'm talking a lot about how do we help people? How do we actually help people? And did you know that overgiving is a strategy? And it's applauded by a lot of people, but overgiving doesn't, think about the words overgiving. There's some neurosis in there, folks. If you're an overgiver, you probably need some boundaries. Anyway, we can talk about that on this live training, okay? relationshipschool.com/training. In this episode, I've got the angry therapist. We could say the angry fucking therapist, but it's just the angry therapist, John Kim, licensed marriage and family therapist in California, in LA. I really like this guy. He's funny. He's really interesting. He has a similar path to mine. We talked about this. One of our calls dropped. We had to try it twice. And we were bonding about how we thought therapy was limited. And so we expanded our practice to coaching. We talked about how stiff it felt in the office as a therapist. And how some men don't like going to therapy because it feels kind of stiff. So anyway, we had some bonding moments. You'll get a glimpse of that here early in the episode. He started a blog a long time ago on Tumblr called, he just called his blog The Angry Therapist, and his first title of his first post was My Fucking Feelings. And he just wanted to chronicle his journey post-divorce, right? He's divorced, and all the terrain he had to navigate. And I think this is just a really interesting guy. We cover a lot of ground, just how to help men, how to help people. His books, one of his books is called I Used to Be a Miserable Fuck. I think it's hilarious. So this guy's got some fun appeal. You should follow him on Instagram if you're not already doing that. I do. He's just an honest dude, and it's really fun to it's very refreshing, I guess, to have a therapist like this in the world. So check it out. Stay tuned to the end for your action step, and enjoy. Welcome to the show, John Kim.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I always like connecting with fellow therapists turned coaches like you.
Yeah. Also, I don't think there's a lot of male therapists. And so I dig it when other therapists are also male.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I think for men who need therapy and maybe are resistant or reluctant, having a male therapist might be potentially easier. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I've gotten many men who prefer males. So I think it depends on the individual. But I just know that when I went to therapy school, there were maybe 5 of us and then a sea of women. And so, just not a profession that when you're growing up, the world, society, friends encourage men to go be therapists.
Not at all. I didn't even know what therapy was, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. My first therapist was a woman, and I consciously chose a woman because I was too, I guess, scared or intimidated by going to see a man. It's like I wasn't ready yet. I felt the safety of a woman.
Right.
And then we worked together for a few years, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready to see a male therapist now.
Have you ever had crushes on your therapist?
Like a crush, like really like.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes attraction forms just because a lot of people are not maybe heard in their life. They're not used to a safe space. And so when they get it, they're so thirsty for it that they could mistake that for attraction. And there's this, we're taught to actually put it on the table and talk about it, which is, which can be kind of uncomfortable.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did have one therapist I went to. It was when I was interviewing therapist as a client, and she was very attractive. And I said, I can't work with you and I just told her I'm kind of attracted to you, and it's not something I want to deal with and navigate.
What did she say? What did she say back?
She was gracious and kind of moved on. Never saw her again.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great compliment. Yeah, I've had both. I've had I think there's two types. There's one like what you're talking about, where you meet someone and they are very attractive, and since this is going to be a space where you're going to be, talking about feelings, and also you don't want the attraction going on while you're doing therapy because it could be distracting, right? It's like It's like having the hot teacher and trying to concentrate on math, right? Sitting in the front row. So there's that. Yeah. And then I've actually been in that situation too in 7th grade. But besides that, then there's the other one where you're not attracted to your therapist, but over time, an attraction forms, right? Through them creating a safe space, through getting to know each other, like any relationship. So I think that happens as well. So I've experienced both. I've experienced what you experienced, and I did the same thing. I was like, I was on the other side. I was the therapist. She walked in. I was single at the time, and I was like, "This is going to be very distracting." She was attractive, and I said to her, I feel this, and I don't think it's fair to you. And so maybe let me refer you to someone else who's not going to be sitting in the room with you with a boner. I didn't say that. I was thinking that.
Of course. I appreciated that you're willing, though, to have some boundaries there and just navigate that. I mean, we teach our coaches that, attraction is going to come up, and it is something that can be grist for the mill. Like, it can be really used in the coaching therapy. Right. And I like what we're saying here. It's just like, if that's not what you're coming in about, it's just it could be very distracting, right? Yeah. Yeah.
But you're supposed to use anything authentic that is happening between two people into the room, right? And I think that's what makes a good therapist, is not to run from it, but actually own it and put it on the table and use it as a vehicle into exploring, the deeper, right? Other things.
Yeah. I mean, because the idea is whatever's showing up, as you're saying, is part of maybe how I'm doing my life, and I actually could extrapolate that and learn lessons here that I then can go apply, right?
Yeah. There's a magazine, I think it's called Camp. It's like a therapy magazine. And on the back of it, they totally put therapists on blast who have lost their license. And a lot of them are therapists who have fallen in love with clients or have had sex with clients and like all that shit. Wow. And I just think it's hilarious that in the back of that magazine, you just see all these therapists and just blacklisted. Yeah.
It's good in a way. Like I appreciate that there's integrity, right? Like I want more people to feel safe enough to go to a mentor and a guide and not feel taken advantage of.
Yeah, of course.
Totally. Dude, I want to explore I want to rewind the tapes. Last kind of mini interview, we got a little cut off there.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming back. So I want to rewind the tapes to your childhood. Like, what kind of family did you grow up in? Just out of curiosity.
Parents came here in the early 80s, $500. It's funny how, especially being immigrants, our parents always drill into us how they came here with no money. And it's not impressive to me. It's like, why didn't you guys just save a little bit more? Because coming to a new country at 500 to me, that doesn't make you. I think that would have been smart if you saved more. But they came here with no money, 2 kids. Mom worked in Stop and Go because we landed in Georgia, and Stop and Go is like a 7-Eleven, and lots of racism at the time. And I remember as like a 3-year-old feeling the I don't remember anything as far as what happened, but I remember feeling discomfort when we would like walk into a restaurant. I remember riding my skateboard up and down the sidewalk of the stop and go, and people making fun of what my mom was eating for lunch because she'd bring in Korean food and stuff like that. So she did that, and my dad got a job after he joined the military, but then he got a job in the phone business, so pulling cable wire. So like I think it was GTE, that was a big company in the 80s. And they just worked their asses off, and they were never home. So I was the kid. Yeah, I was raised by pop culture. I was out playing and spinning on my head, and we had the house where because the other kids, their parents were home, or at least mom was, so they couldn't eat all the bad stuff. So they would all come to my house because what my parents thought was American was to stack everything with like Lucky Charms and Fruity Pebbles, and but try to get us into Levi's jeans. So they did a good job buying us things, right? But they weren't really there, and so I didn't get a lot of emotional milk growing up.
And sounds like they were really busy working. They had other.
Yeah.
Did you have siblings, or is it just?
I have one brother. And he's 2 years older than me, and they were just trying to, they were in fight or flight. They were just trying to pay the bills.
Absolutely.
And survive. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the download, sort of in essence, that you got from your dad about being a man?
Not much. He was, he was a functioning alcoholic. He was really charismatic and fun, and when he was happy, he was amazing. But he wasn't the dad that took me fishing. Said I love you. He didn't do all the things that I saw other kids do with their dads, right? Like teach them how to hit a ball and all that kind of stuff. He was always at work and just worried about paying bills. But when he was in a good mood, he was happy and fun. And I took that away from him. Yeah.
And were you trying to, some kids try to get their love from their dad, get them to notice you playing sports or achieving in school? Or were you more like, what was your vibe? Or were you trying to actually rescue him and help him and like get him to stop drinking? Or what was your sort of play with as a boy? As
a boy, I don't think I was aware that he was an alcoholic. I didn't even know what that was, I remember I would engage. I remember this one time I bought a model airplane in the 80s. The models were really big, and it was like sold in someone's garage. It was like a really expensive, it was like a hobby that the guy did. And, it had like 20,000 pieces, popsicle sticks that and it wasn't for a 10-year-old to build. Right. And so my dad bought it for me. It was like $20, which is very expensive at the time. And he said, there's no way you're going to put that together. And I said, yes, I will. And of course I couldn't, but I remember hours of trying to do this thing. And it was just a pile of popsicle sticks, and wanting my dad to help me or engage with me. And he was just reading the Korean newspaper the entire time. But I remember moments like that where, I have a daughter now, and when I'm with her, I put everything aside and really try to engage with her. And he was younger than me as a dad, because I'm 47 now, but he didn't engage in that way, and I feel like, that saying, our parents did the best with what they had. And he was someone who came from a war-stricken, poverty, Korean. And he doesn't know anything about how to raise a child or emotional intelligence, or, it was just basically
similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stoic, working hard, and what was your relationship or their relationship like, your dad and your mom? What sort of download did you get about intimate relationships from them?
Oh, they, not much, man. Zero affection. My dad would I've never seen them kiss. And my dad would only like hold her hand as a joke or grab her as a joke, and she would always push him away. And then in their later years, them sleeping in separate rooms, of course. But I didn't see any kind of modeled healthy intimacy at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the movies and things outside of the home where I got my definitions.
Yeah, totally. And you said you were spinning on your head. Does that mean you were a breakdancer?
Yeah, I was in the 80s. I was a breakdancer, and I was obsessed with it. So I'd come home and practice, and I would hit flow states. And my dad would, throw books at me and tell me that that's not why we came to America. But I wasn't a smart kid. I wasn't a school kid. I was a C student, and I found joy in things like breakdancing, skateboarding, bikes, and all of that stuff.
Do you still got some moves? Can you still throw it out?
I have one move. It's like someone who's got one joke, and like he's only impressive to people that don't know the joke, but to all his friends are like, dude, you're going to do that again. Right. And if you look at my social media, I just have one windmill move. I could still do it. It's not as great, but I still can do it. And that's the one move that I do. And it's, I can't do a head spin at 47. Are you kidding me? I would die. Right. But I could do windmills. I could still do windmills. And, I think if one day that I cannot do windmills anymore, I will get depressed, because it will really mean that I'm old.
Okay. So if we go, so it sounds like in adolescence, if we kind of move into adolescence, you were into breakdancing, skating, C student. What were you pursuing at the time? How were your friendships? Was it more of the place where you got connection?
This was the 80s, and I lived in a place where there were no Asians. I feel like they pick one Asian to kind of let in to the cool kids circle, but only one. And usually you have to have an ability. You can't just get in. And I wonder if that's one of the reasons why I was so obsessed with activities, because it was my ticket into being a part of the cool kids. And so I never got bullied. I know so many people around me who were Asian that got their ass kicked and made fun of. And, in my generation, I think I'm older than you. It wasn't that far from, when Jerry Lewis was taping his eyes back, and the John Hughes movies where you see Long Duk Dong. And I mean, like, Asians were not cool in the 80s. Right. And so, but because I could dance or skate or do something, I managed to fit in with kind of the cool kids or the older boys. And that was my survival mechanism, I guess.
Yeah, and I imagine there was obviously kind of a chronic low-grade racism going on, and there still is. And feel that. And was it that obvious to you as an adolescent and maybe moving into your 20s? Was it just super like, oh my God, this is like ridiculous? Or were you more maybe less conscious of it, and it was still going on?
Yeah, I felt it a lot as a kid in the 80s, even just directly. My brother's friends and other people, saying like when my brother wasn't around, they would make fun of like, I don't know, something about the way my house smelled, or, like whatever, some kind of Asian joke. Mm-hmm. And I think that what I did was, instead of fighting them, I think I joined them to fit in. So I started to make fun of Asian people as well. You know what I'm saying? And so like, instead of being the target, I decided to make myself the target. When sometimes you get into a fight, if you're scared to fight, you're going to hit the guy first because you're so scared they're going to punch you. Yeah. And so it was kind of my way of hitting myself first. And it's something that I'm trying to work on now, because, these patterns become ingrained, and even, at 47, like, sometimes I'll find myself making fun of myself or my ethnicity very mildly with my friends. And then they would laugh because I'm making fun of myself. And then I got to stop that, because I realize I'm just feeding into it,
Yeah, totally. And someone privileged white guy over here like me, that's helpful for me, because I have my own racist sort of roots, and it's painful, to be making fun of the Asian kid, or it doesn't matter what color their skin is, but anyone really. But do you feel like navigating all that, did it create like, I guess I'm just curious how that informed how you relate to people in your 20s and even 30s as you grew and developed, this kind of being hard on yourself or being the brunt of the joke just as a way to get connection. I'm so curious how that played out.
Yeah, I wonder if I have this saying, to never exchange your truth or membership. And I think I say that a lot because I did exchange my truth for membership. So not only as a kid, I was embarrassed to be Asian. I was embarrassed because our food was stinky. I wanted blonde hair and blue eyes and be with the skater kids, but I looked different. All the girls liked them, so I wanted to be them. But also, in my 20s in Hollywood, I ran a restaurant bar club for a while, and I was exchanging my truth a lot to fit in, chasing shiny things. And it was very scenic for about 6 months. So it was very celebrity driven and lots of rich people. And I felt like the outsider trying to get in. And so I would be in my pseudo self. I would do things where I exchanged my truth for membership.
Yeah.
And I realized that it makes you lukewarm. It turns you invisible.
Totally.
You start living a life that's outside in instead of inside out.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so with you. Did that many times, climbing social ladders, right? Trying to get in the club or whatever,
Sure.
compromising who I am. And then what led up to, remind us what, you tell this story a fair amount on your podcast and in your books. What started to move you in the direction of enough pain that you sought out therapists, becoming a therapist and therapy in general?
A divorce. I got married at 29. And it was a very sticky, codependent. She was an actress. I was a screenwriter. I was a struggling screenwriter. I had representation. I sold one or two things, but it wasn't enough for it to be a career. So I was the husband, with the dishwashing gloves and picking up dog shit, and at home, doing all those things while she was becoming successful, and she was, on movie sets and traveling. And it just, the dynamic changed, and we were just young, and I was unhappy. I was angry. I would steamroll people. I was very reactive. And so the divorce happened at about 35, and I had nothing, man. When I was married, I didn't put any effort into friendship, self-care. I didn't have a sense of self. It was all hanging on this other person. So once the divorce happened, I was kind of cut at the knees, and so
and
enter therapy and everything else.
You felt somewhat inadequate in that marriage as well.
Yeah. When we got married, I didn't feel inadequate, but over the years, I think it was 5 years we were married. I tell people I went from her mouth to her nipple. I think the dynamic changed because she saw me as a child, more so than a partner, and that's when my whole, wanting to be a man, wanting to redefine, wanting to explore what that looked like. All of that came from realizing that I've been such a boy.
Yeah. Okay, so you're 35 and your marriage starts to not work out, right? Is that about 35 you get a divorce?
Yeah, about 35. And I thought, maybe something's wrong with me. I thought I was a sex addict at one point. I started going to SA meetings. I started, I got therapy. We did some couples counseling. And then I just realized I need to do something that's going to make me happy. So I quit the screenwriting. It wasn't honest to me anymore. And I was talking to my own therapist, and he's like, if you can't do that, what do you want to do? And I said, if I can't move people by the masses, I want to do what you're doing. I love psychology. I kind of, my dream was to have a private practice, and that's all I wanted. It was just to have this nondescript office and just see clients. I thought that would be an amazing life. And that's not what happened. But I did go to a therapy school at 35. And then what he didn't tell me was, because the school was great. It was only like two years. And I think you said you got straight A's. I got straight A's. I loved it.
Yeah.
When you grad school, yeah.
Undergrad, not so much.
Yeah, not undergrad, yeah. But when you're studying a subject that you actually want to study,
totally. You're inspired
that's amazing. Absolutely. Yeah. But he didn't tell me about the 3,000 hours you have to get after to get licensed. And that took a long time. Took me like 5 or 6 years. I took a year off. I was burnt out. Yeah, so that was a long journey.
You were simultaneously learning about yourself, though, and growing, I imagine.
Yeah, I was broke. I had no friends, had no sense of self. And I just got on Craigslist, found a room in Studio City in Los Angeles. And I was working in nonprofit as a counselor, just to pay bills and rack up hours. And I did that for like 5 years. And that was the beginning of my rebirth. And then I found myself through donuts, CrossFit, and motorcycles. It's actually in this book. It wasn't like Eat, Love, Pray. It wasn't fancy trips to Italy and culture and exotic foods. It was finding fitness and buying a motorcycle and just kind of connecting back to me,
And it sounds like you kind of started coming home to yourself, and I
Yeah.
imagine your work with people became more effective.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the universe threw me in nonprofit because I didn't want to do that. And, again, my dream was a private practice with the fancy wrinkle-free pants and the lattes and all that.
Yeah.
But I was wearing a uniform, and it was actually me in treatment, not them. And I didn't want to work with teenagers, and it was just all teenagers,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
struggling with addictions. And so I felt like I went to get a master's. I'm now 30, 37. And I was like, what am I a school counselor? Like I used to take them shopping. It was residential. Right. And so I just felt like I'm in a Big Brother program. I was like, this isn't what I signed up for. But it changed me because I saw that the common thread between all the kids was fatherless, meaning dad was either emotionally not home or physically not home. And then that's where I got a fire in my belly to start talking about, men and redefining men. And so as I started talking about that, I went through that journey myself,
Hey, quick interruption from yours truly. What's up? Guys, please come to my latest training, relationshipschool.com/training. We often talk about how to own our needs, how to communicate better, how to listen better, how to deal with, your family of origin, how to deal with other difficult people, how to deal with you and yourself because you're difficult sometimes. And we also cover how to help other people. How do we help people work through their relationship challenges? Come to this training and find out and ask me a question live. relationshipschool.com/training. All right, we'll see you there. Back to the podcast. We have so much in common, man. We in our other conversation and this one, all these things I worked in adolescent treatment programs as well, mostly wilderness therapy.
Oh, wow.
Kids that didn't want to be there, many programs.
What is wilderness therapy? That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's where if you're kind of a troubled teen, mostly for privileged kids, although there were some inner city kids and some kids disenfranchised and, lower socioeconomic class. But kids are thrown into treatment against their will out into the woods. They're just dropped off by this dude one day. And,
Wow.
Big bouncer kind of guy. Their parents pay this organization to escort him, like an escort, out to the middle of nowhere, dropped off to me and my group. And now we've got to help him get his shit together for sometimes 3 months, sometimes longer. And then sometimes there's family therapy, and then the kid goes home, usually relapses because the family system hasn't changed.
Right.
But it was really good. I cut my teeth there and got a lot of really good experience. This was before I went to graduate school. And I'm saying that because I'm relating with you saying it was treatment for me.
Right.
I was trying to heal the kind of wounded kid in myself by hanging around these kids around the fire, talking about their problems. I was getting healing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was powerful.
Yeah. That's definitely an overlap in our story. But you were in the woods and I was in the city, but kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, and I'm just seeing the connection now with your childhood with your dad, and then how you want to help men. And it's pretty amazing that as maybe neurotic as your dad was or whatever, in a way he gave you this gift to one day be in enough pain to want to help other people with this issue.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. That what he was lacking actually was a gift because I wouldn't have had the passion or drive to help all these kids or create a dialogue about men. If I had a dad that did teach me how to swing a bat or took me camping or was there emotionally,
Right. I imagine we wouldn't be talking if you had that kind of dad, right?
Yeah, I don't think I would have been a therapist. I mean, I don't know what I would have been, right?
Yeah, same. My dad was amazing and emotionally not really there. Of course, I care about emotions and being there, right? Relationally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have kids now or no?
I do. I have a 11 and 10-year-old now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. How about
so,
you? You had one kid?
Yeah, I have one kid, a daughter, and she's 9 months. So I'm still kind of in the trenches. But holy shit, man. I used to hear people about saying how hard it is, and I used to think they're just, complaining and come on. The first 6 months, just survival, just trying to, you don't sleep. And the kid is just, not even a person yet. Like it's just like mush. But now at 9 months,
so much need, right?
yes, they're completely dependent on you. But now at 9 months, they are now I'm starting to see a little person emerging, and I think that's been really a huge joy in my life.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Are you going to have more, do you think, or?
No, one and done.
Okay, one and done.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lucky kid. And do you feel like is it changing how you're seeing your work with people in terms of like, oh my God, if injuries happen between 0 and 9 months, like this could be a big deal, or not?
Yeah, one thing it's given me a tremendous amount of respect for parents. So our parent, now I see how it played out and why. Like if I was, let's say I was having struggle, if I was struggling making, ends meet, paying the rent, if I had all that stress, which a lot of parents did, right?
Yep.
And then I was, other things that our parents had to deal with. Oh, like let's say, there was a lot of racism. Let's say I couldn't speak English well, like all of that stuff. I was like, oh my God, of course, my dad was never home and he was trying to feed me, and so yeah, I now see how hard it is, and I see our parents as human.
Yeah.
More so. Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot less blame.
Yeah. Amen, man. I can empathize in a totally different way. And I really it took my relationship with my parents to the next level for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I also believe, as someone that's 47, I don't think I would be a good father at 20 or, 25 or even 30. I mean, yeah. And so knowing that a lot of our parents had us when they were, my girlfriend's mom had her when she was 19, 21.
No
so
tools,
like,
right? No interpersonal tools, no therapy options.
You haven't been on the planet long enough to have tools, you haven't been hurt enough. You haven't gone through enough heroes journeys for you to come out the other side with revelations at 20. With 20, we're just exploring, and that's what we're meant to do,
Yeah. 20s.
Trial and error.
Teens, totally. Yeah, man. Okay, so you started, and then you started helping men, and it seems like your work now is sort of universal. It's like helping anyone who wants to get empowered with their life and take command of their life. How would you describe the work you're doing now as the angry therapist?
Man, I don't know how to describe it. I'm just I'm fascinated with building communities. I've always been fascinated with the internet. So I started on Tumblr 9 years ago with a blog called The Angry Therapist, and I didn't think anyone would read it. But it was like when I was breakdancing, I just got obsessed with coming home and blogging. It was my new, and when I was younger, at 9 or 10, I would lock myself in the room and just play with Legos all day, obsessed with Legos. And then it was breakdancing, and then it was skating, and then it was writing blogs. And so when I did that, I found that it was a great way to not only document your story, but connect with people. And so, when Google Hangouts first came out, I ran a group when webcams were plugged in and people were on AOL. Right. And I remember I connected I don't know, there were 6 or 7 of us. And we were like this. We were very robotic. And I felt like the dude in Back to the Future when he hits his head and invents the what's the flux capacitor, whatever that thing is. Yeah, I just because I closed it and I was like, this is going to be the future. I was like I didn't think that in-person stuff was going to ever end, but I thought that there's a way to connect faster. And, I don't know what's going to happen, but this is it, because we had a Breakfast Club moment with these 6 people. And even though we were kind of blurry and, a lot of us were on dial-up, we were still able to connect. And man, today, I have this thing called the Lab, and now we're using Zoom, but everyone's connecting through, this, like what we're doing right now, looking at each other via,
Totally. And people need community, right? They want to connect and get real with other real humans, right?
Yeah. And as a therapist, I don't know about you and your state, but we weren't allowed to see clients online unless they were in your state.
Yep.
And I had a problem with that, because I was like, why can't we help people with this technology? And because then our reach goes worldwide. And then there were just so many things with the board that I felt constricted. I felt like Clark Kent pushing a mail cart. And so I called myself a coach, and then I was able to work in ways that were more honest to me, and to other people, maybe unconventional as a therapist.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes you attractive and a great option for people because you're being real and you're being yourself and speaking truth and being candid and transparent about your life. I think that's very refreshing.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that I think people now care more about who you are than the letters after your name, right? And I think
Yeah,
because of social media, because of blogging, people are now vulnerable and showing themselves in a way where going back to that whole thing, don't exchange your truth for membership. I think the Angry Therapist was the first time in my life where I actually did not do that. And I think the result of that was, followers and sessions and all of the,
yeah,
business.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm with you. I think in our previous conversation, I mentioned I let go of my license after working really hard.
Right. Right.
For similar reasons, I was just a little bummed and frustrated with the limitations, and I was starting to see people virtually, and I was like, okay, I'm not down with this. So, like you, I called myself a coach and was like, all right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing now.
And don't you think right now that's kind of the swell we're seeing with so many people? I know a lot of therapists kind of hopping the fence, becoming coaches, not wanting to just work in ways that are, they want to play in their sandbox. They want to do other things. They want to,
Definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
wear
I think
different
it's
hats.
actually pretty cool. Like COVID's actually accelerated that whole move, right? Because
Oh yeah,
so many therapists are stuck at home, not in their office, and they're like, "Oh, this is pretty sweet. I can see clients at home on Zoom.
right.
I kind of like this." And I,
Yeah.
I I wonder how many therapists are actually going to go pay rent again and have an office for in-person sessions. I mean, that has a place, of course. That'll never go away, like you said. But I think having that flexibility, I think, is amazing.
Yeah. People are interested in not wearing pants anymore. We've tasted that. We're like, all right, we're done. No
Totally.
more pants.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What you've got a new book coming out. What's the book about? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's called Single on Purpose, and it came from when I was coaching people. I don't have a full practice now, but when I did, mostly women, 30s and older, just tired of this toxic dating landscape, swipe culture. We've turned into baseball cards, and there's a lot of false advertising and ghosting and hiding behind your phone and dick pics and all that. And just dating is dead now. And mostly women, men too, but mostly women because they feel like they have a ticking clock, tying their worth to not finding the one.
Hmm.
And so, Single on Purpose was born from me um, encouraging people to redefine what single looks like. And I think that when you're single, that's the richest soil for growth. I know it was for me. And I was single for like 5 years. And that's when you go on your journey. It's when you learn about yourself and who you want to be and how you want to be. And you bring all that to the table when you find someone that you want to invest in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. And did you write that when you were single or were you dating?
I wrote it. It takes about a year to publish a book, so I wrote it a year or two ago. I was in a relationship, but the relationship was new. So yeah, I wasn't single.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not called single forever. It's called single.
Right. What's your dating advice like for the listener? Like what's kind of the one or two top of the list tips that dating now, particularly with COVID, but also just
Yeah.
swipe culture, like you're saying, like what do people need to do that are single right now with dating?
I think you have to use dating as a vehicle to explore, discover things about yourself. So not a lot of people use dating as a way to find the one, or they use apps to desperately search for their next partner. But I think that's the wrong mindset because it's lined with desperation,
Hmm.
and you're going to be chasing instead of attracting. I think if you use dating as a way to connect back to you, right? So dating against your types, do things that you would that scare you, that you would normally do. Hear stories. Like, don't just focus on trying to find someone to be with, but just be open to having a human exchange.
Yeah.
And then like dating apps, I think they're so toxic. So like I mean, I get the technology, and I get that it's a great way to meet people when we don't have time and we want things fast. But you got to use a small spoon, because they can also be things that puncture your self esteem.
Hmm.
When people don't swipe on you, if you feel a connection and they ghost and they leave, you're gonna think that there's something wrong with you. So all of that stuff.
Yeah. What do you mean by a small spoon? I'm not picking.
Like when you go to the ice cream store and they give you a little taster spoon.
Oh,
So that's what I know. I got to finish what I'm saying. I'll have a thought and I'll just say it, and then I think everyone else gets it, and they're like, "What do you? Small spoon, a taster spoon. You can't sit on a dating app and swipe for 3 hours if you feel shitty about yourself. Do it for 10 minutes when you feel good about yourself.
uh-huh. Yeah. Nice. So it's like the state you're coming from when you're putting yourself out there. Is like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
cool. Um, do you think people are finding, given the times and the swipe culture, like you're saying, are people still finding a lot of success online dating, or is it actually the people that are successful doing kind of more word of mouth referrals from friends, and they're actually going on walks and meeting out in the world? And what's your take?
Yeah, I don't know the statistics, but I think people are more picky. I think people are more cautious. I think people are finding more relationships that are substance based, not through apps, but through communities. So maybe their yoga studio, their fitness, maybe their motorcycle club, maybe their rock climbing club through friends, all of that. And I think that's a good thing. I wanted to come back to that because that's how it used to be. But I think what's happening is a lot of skin hunger on apps. So I think there's a lot of people hooking up, right? But not a lot of relationships happening via apps.
Yeah, right. Where do let's talk about men for a minute, and we can tie it back to dating. What's because you focused on men in some of your work a bit. What's happening with men? Do you feel like we're growing up a little bit here? Are we evolving? What's going on?
Man, I don't know. I think that in the last 5 years, and I think off the heels of the Me Too and the Harvey Weinstein thing and all of that, we've definitely taken, I think, a black light to men. And I think men who want to change are doing something with it, meaning they're looking inward, they're looking at their own patterns, they're taking ownership, and I think there's some other men who are completely hiding, right? That are not wanting to do anything, but now they're hiding because they're scared they're going to get called out. So I think just it depends, but the world right now is so ripe, I think, and this is exciting for men to redefine themselves. And I don't think that's happened, at least in my lifetime. Just growing up in locker rooms and kind of being raised by pulp culture, lots of shoulds on how men should act. But men are like, now vulnerable. Men are like you, therapists and coaches, and showing different sides of themselves instead of just like this macho, I'm stronger than you and competitive, like all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think men are making moves, and I think we are still pretty slow. But it's cool to see some, like what I like about the entrepreneurial scene that you and I sort of, there might be cross pollination there of meeting people who are young entrepreneurs in particular are into personal growth and development, and a lot of young entrepreneurs are men.
Yeah, that's a huge plus, right?
And they're like, oh, these guys are actually talking about self-awareness and
right
psychedelics and growing and learning about yourself and healing your trauma. I think it's pretty cool. Like, I get really curious about where this is all going, because it could be that, the male teachers now are not so much the Robert Bly's or the sort of men's work guys of old. It's young entrepreneurs who are actually willing to talk transparently. These guys have a huge following, so it's pretty cool to see what's happening there.
Yeah, like even like Kevin Hart,
Right.
People who are celebrities with huge platforms, Joe Rogan, who are interested in conversations where you are wanting to better yourself. I think that's a very good thing. And this is what's going to change men is other men.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's actually an exciting time.
Yeah, totally. Cool, man. Well, I got a couple more questions for you, and then we can stop.
Yeah.
I ask all our guests the same question. One of our missions here at the Relationship School is to reach 1 million young people, 10 million families, just some ridiculous goals that one day are going to happen.
Nice.
But if
how will you know that you hit the 1 million?
I don't know exactly. It's sort of this fantasy that I have that I'm going to turn into a reality somehow, and I'm still working on that. I love it. Big project deep in my heart. Anyway, if I had a room of high school students, let's say 1,000 of them, and I could only teach them one thing about love or relationships, and you were whispering in my ear, what would you want me to tell them?
Oh, about love and relationships, I would say try to understand before trying to be understood. I think I know for me in my 20s, I know I mentioned I used to steamroll and be a walking reaction. I would always try to be understood, and rarely would I try to understand first. And I think that if we all did that, then we let go of the rope, the tug of war rope, and we are actually then creating space to be compassionate and be empathetic, and that produces glue. When everyone is trying to be understood before trying to understand other people, that we flip the magnet. We're all just being defensive and fighting. So that was all in my 20s.
Yeah, beautiful. That's awesome. And what's just parting words? What other advice or suggestion do you have for the listener here?
Trust your story. I think our stories are the greatest thing, the most valuable thing we'll ever own. And most of us, me included, struggle with ripping out chapters because things have happened and they're lined with shame. And your story is it's complete and it's beautiful, and you shouldn't throw chapters away. And if a lot of the bad didn't happen, then you wouldn't be where you are now. So every part of your story will be used. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's cool to hear your story, just the arc of your life. Just I'm glad we got to touch into it a little bit to see how you came to be who you are, and I just really appreciate, John, what you're up to in the world, and
thanks, man. I appreciate that.
And being authentic and telling the truth and helping people. It's really, really awesome.
I'm trying. Every day's a struggle,
Yeah, man. Totally. Get back, fall down, get back up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where can folks find you and your new book and your other books?
Both of my books are from HarperCollins, Harper One, and so they're wide. So anywhere, Amazon, Barnes, wherever, and you could find me at The Angry Therapist on social.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Thanks again for all your time and heart.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, action step. Yeah, that was fun. So for you singles, I think there was some really sound advice there at the end. With the taster spoon, right? I thought that was pretty funny. Well, let me actually just go to Angry Therapist on Instagram or wherever. You can find John Kim. Go check out his work, check out his books. Awesome dude. And action step for the singles, especially you, is notice when you're on your dating apps, if you're swiping for a lot of time, like John said there, or and you're doing it because you feel bad about yourself and it's just like checking out kind of thing, or are you spending 10 minutes when you feel good about yourself? I thought that was really great. And then something about the community piece resonated with me, that people are finding partners and just awesome people in communities. That could be a yoga community, some other personal growth community like ours here at the Relationship School, or some other, meditation, mindfulness community, a walking community, a birding community, a skiing group, rock climbing group, like John said. Are you actually joining things where you'll potentially meet people? And can you create an action step around that for yourself? Can you do that? Yeah. And I challenge you to do that and get an accountability partner. Like I always say, share it with them and say, okay, in 1 month from now, I am going to join X community and I'm going to try it out. Yeah. Hell yeah. Do that. Okay. And if you want to come hang with me on the latest training, go to relationshipschool.com/training. Love to see you there. And certainly in our Facebook group, relationshipschool.com/community. Right, where I pop in from time to time and answer questions, do Facebook Lives, ask questions, etc. Okay, folks, take good care of yourselves and other people today and stay connected. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Share one of these videos with a friend. We want to help the planet get their act together around relationships, and you are one of them, so thank you.